Welcome in to another edition of Sportswrap Overtime. Just two of us in the digital studio today. You see Craig Loper, James Catato, here for a good general discussion. We're hitting the summertime in the Wavy Sports office, so it's kind of sports on the field action slowing down. High school spring sports season is over. So moving forward on Sportswrap OT for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking a lot of just sort of general sports topics, James, because, again, on the field action outside of really Major League Baseball and the Peninsula Pilots going on, a lot of stuff is slow. So you see what we're talking about, the new age of the sports landscape, the NIL, says mess there, but NIL landscape.
It is partially a mess.
It is. Oh, so it's definitely a mess. But, there's a lot to unpack here. We're going to start with some just general thoughts of where we are in 2025, in the summer of 2025, as the House settlement just finished.
Yep.
Schools are opting into this paying players directly model, how it impacts everybody moving forward, the ODUs of the world, the Norfolk States, all that type of stuff. So a lot to go on here, James. So let me just start with this. Your general thoughts on the overall landscape of college athletics and NIL right now. What are your general thoughts?
I do think that there is a place for it.
Of course.
Right? I think that when you're looking at universities who get billions and billions and billions of dollars off of these individual 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old athletes, it's like they always deserved, in my opinion, to get a piece of that pie just based on the revenue that they give these universities, right? Mm-hmm. You look at somebody like Johnny Manziel, right? He was a perfect example of somebody who should have been paid by Texas A&M because of all the traffic that he generated for that, not just football program, but for that university.
Right.
When you think about what Money Manziel and that mayhem brought, that warranted a paycheck.
Tim Tebow before that. Cam Newton, a great example. Right there in the middle of them.
So, and that's just, football. We're not even talking about basketball, too. Like Christian Laettner, Carmelo Anthony. There were dudes that probably did get paid.
Yeah, different time back then.
But different time. But I think that, a perfect example is Nico Iamaleava, the former Tennessee, now UCLA quarterback, who wanted $4 million out of Tennessee, didn't show up to the beginning stages of practice for spring ball, and now he got less money than he would have gotten even playing at Tennessee, reportedly. Right. Yeah. So that's just my take on it. I don't know what's yours.
No, I mean, it's an interesting place we're in. I agree. College athletes should have always been paid. No doubt about it. Now, we're talking specifically NIL. When landscape for me is also, transfer portal you talk about. Of course. Yeah. So there's no doubt in my mind yet. College athletes should have always been paid. I think what NIL, the intention of NIL has turned into something way different the last, 3 years we're going on now. So when I think of NIL, when you hear that term, name, image, likeness, it's seeing an athlete in a national commercial, right? That's what it is. It's your local athlete in the local car dealership doing ads and stuff. What it turned into was paying athletes to come to your school, which that may have always been happening. Those $100,000 handshakes under the table have been happening since basically the beginning of time, maybe, especially you think of SMU back in the day and the Pony Express and the Eric Dickerson story, all that stuff that goes way back. So it was always happening. Now it's just more kind of in your face, even though schools are like, oh, we're not paying athletes to come here. They want to come here because they love the university. And it's like, yeah, okay, different. But you have these collectives that popped up. So there was a whole host of things that happened in the wake of the NIL floodgates opening, so to speak. I'm all for athletes using their name, image, and likeness and get paid, but it gets shady when you have people influencing 18-year-old kids and waving money in their face. And on the other side of it, paying an 18-year-old kid who's not a sure thing, that just seems kind of dumb to me. If I'm a booster and there's no guarantee this kid is going to work out and my team's going to win national championships, seems kind of dumb on that. Now, if you're the kid, get as much money as you can, especially if you need it and you're trying to maybe support your family or just help your family financially if you can do it. What it creates, though, I think it I should say discredits the integrity of a lot of things. I think a lot of people now, like Nico, I can't even say his name. Iamaleava can't okay, he was only chasing the check from the beginning. He has no loyalty to Tennessee,
of course.
And where the part where it failed for me, NIL specifically, is there's no structure to it, right? The NFL, the NBA, and the MLB, they all work because everyone plays by the same rules.
Right.
You know, in college athletics, no one has ever played by the same rules. That's how it's always been. But when you have a salary cap, when you have, positions on the NBA roster where this guy can get paid this, there's more structure around it. So NIL, there was no structure. So always think that guys should get paid. Unfortunately, there was lack of structure. And that's why this house settlement comes into the deal where schools can now pay up to $20 million for athletes in their athletic department to dish it out. And, people are going to be buying tickets, and that's going to be supporting student athletes in a lot of ways. And that's how it always should have been. So I'm happy with that. Guys are getting paid. I don't like what it's created in terms of just leaving one place for the money and going there. When I was in school, transferring was like a big deal. I went to the University of Oregon. Deal. I was 18 years old. 09 to 2012 was like the best 4-year stretch Oregon had ever had. That's when we became we went from a regional brand to like a national brand. And when you transferred back then in 2009, it was like, oh my God, this guy's transferring. Like, dude, you got to set a year. That's a big risk.
That's a big risk.
Now you just transfer. It's like, oh yeah, I'm playing next season. It's all good. I'm transferring transcripts. It's just so much. It's so nonchalant.
And now there are multiple portal seasons too.
Portal seasons. It's a headache for the coaches. It's a headache for us. It's stressful on the kids. These guys are trying to do schoolwork. It's a lot of downside to it. Overall, happy guys are getting paid. Don't like what happened in the wake of a lot of the effort for NIL.
Yeah.
So.
And you played on a Division I scale. Right. I played on a much smaller collegiate scale, in Division III. So, I mean, that was never really a thing. Right. But even still, we just showed some high school tape. And I think this is relevant not just to the college kids, too, but you're looking at high school kids, right? And I want to pull it up again. Because, some of these dudes, some of these dudes that you're seeing on your screen are going to be actual dudes that go on and play Division I sports.
For sure.
Maricus Banks at Phoebus. Yeah. BJ Nesbitt is going to go play D1 ball next year somewhere. Torrey Newkirk is going to North Carolina. Right. So it's you got dudes who a lot of it now, and LeBron Bond going to play in Indiana, a college football playoff team last year, right? How much of it really is, not just the amount of playing time that you're going to get, but the bag that you're going to get for it too. Yeah. And I thought it was interesting because I talked to Travis Johnson a couple weeks ago on Sportswrap Sit Down.
Oscar Smith.
And he said that he has an agent now.
Yeah.
He got an agent at the end of his junior year of high school.
Yeah.
And when you're a 4-star wide receiver in anywhere, I mean, it's it's kind of wild that that's what it turned into. I couldn't have even imagined getting an agent.
And here's what it is too. So that term, that's also something that's happened in the age of NIL. That term agent really doesn't mean what it used to mean, right? Yeah. When you are an agent in the NFL, you have to go through the NFLPA. You have to go through the NFL Players Association to get certified and be a reputable agent. Now is really what high school kids mean. They mean manager is what they mean. There's no NCAA institution that certifies all these agents that these kids get. Because I talked to kids with agents too, but in reality they mean managers. But even something like that has become loose, and what it allows, in my opinion. And agents, traditionally agents have always been there have been some shady people that steal money from athletes. So it's been happening for years. Yeah. But what now is anyone can just manage these kids that's in their ear. Right. Yeah. And it is what it is. Travis has every right to a manager that any athlete does. Right. It's good for him. Hopefully you work with trustworthy people that have your best interest in mind, not only money wise, but literally what you need to look for when you're a guy like some of these top guys. What program is going to develop me? Right. What program can I get in there and play? What system uses my talent? What do the coaches staff look like? What is the culture there? Am I gonna play? Am I gonna get an opportunity? All that type of stuff. And really the developmental piece is kind of, I think, the biggest piece. Instead of just jumping school to school, maybe focus on developing as a player. What I think NIL needs in terms of structure and college athletics in general, you need a binding contract, right? You need a binding contract that says when I sign here to Florida State or whatever the school is, I'm locked into Florida State for 2 years. I cannot go anywhere. James and I work for Wavy TV 10 / Nexstar, our parent company. We are under contracts. We are under contracts. And my contract is through a certain date, and your contract is through a certain date. Now, can we transfer within the company? For sure, within the company, but we can't just jump. We can't just dip to another job without penalty. Right. And that if these kids and these people, if these are now employees, so to speak, of the university because they're getting paid, there needs to be contracts in place that have penalties in it. And I think that's all going to happen here in the coming years. Is there's going to be finding contracts where if you signed on the dotted line, you're with us for 2 years, no matter what. I don't care, unless it's some incredible hardship. They have hardship waivers now. Right. So there just needs to be, more structure to it in general.
Well, we saw Robert Jones, the head coach of the Norfolk State men's basketball team, talk about this not too long ago when everything happened with Brian Moore Jr. transferring to Grand Canyon, or I guess even before he committed to GCU, and he just hopped into the portal.
Right.
And it was the little guy always gets, for lack of a better term, screwed out of the deal. Right?
Correct.
I mean, because you're it's almost like you're punishing these scouting teams that are going out and finding this talent that isn't getting Power 4, Power 5 offers.
Right.
And now they're using you as a year
you're a developmental
springboard.
League.
You know?
You're a developmental league.
Credit to Brian Moore Jr.
Yeah.
Right. He went out. He got Player of the Year in the conference.
Yeah.
Or no, he didn't get Player of the Year.
No,
in the
he was
conference.
the Howard
he got,
kid got it.
Newcomer
of the year. Right.
Blake Harper got.
Yeah, Howard.
And he's another story. He may transfer out too.
I'm surprised he hasn't. I mean, look that up.
Well, Howard's though, that's an interesting story too, right? So Howard, I got sent this story not too long ago. Howard started a student collective,
right,
where you can make donations to the athletic department,
right?
That could ultimately almost be like incentives to keep players around,
right?
And it was this one random like podcaster that was breaking it down, and all of the videos on the screen were of Blake Harper.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like he's the cash cow of the basketball program at Howard right now. Right.
Yeah.
But the little guy gets punished because, you're being used as a year stopgap.
Yep.
And credit to Brian Moore Jr. for balling out in the 1 year that he was there. But you got to, Robert Jones said, lock him into a contract.
Yeah.
And then they may have to pay you a percentage.
Yeah.
Just like a coach would if he randomly up and left.
Yeah. They got to get bought out, right? If someone hires someone, a coach under contract, they got to buy out the contract. The little guy gets screwed over, so to speak, but also high school recruits now. If you're not a top guy anymore, unfortunately, there's no room for you at these bigger programs are less about development now than ever, because that transfer portal, there's guys already established in there that have been in college for 2 to 3 years. Rick Pitino, look at Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders took over Colorado.
In the portal.
He recruited a couple high school kids, and they were like 5-star level, talented prospects. Travis Hunter and the tackle, I forget his name, Jordan something. But like the high school kids are now getting screwed because of what has come of the college athletics landscape. The transfer portal opened up. It's a free for all. And now high school kids, if you were 3-star coming out of high school, and let's say you had a program that really liked you or coaching staff, you could go P4, you could go to a Power 4 school.
Right.
If you're a 3-star now and you don't have some sort of great relationship, or it's hard you might have to go FCS level or even D2 or at least G5. You're going to go G5 first, and then at that G5 level, you're going to have to prove your worth. Colton Joseph, he's a guy, he started at Old Dominion. He's done pretty well for himself. There was rumors right here, as we watch him play, there was rumors of him leaving Old Dominion.
Just leaving.
Because he showed out for last year with his legs and his arm, and he's a good player, and obviously he's sticking around now. But, I think it's pretty well known that there's some he needed to get paid a little bit more. And so I think ODU and some of the collective people made it work. Michael Vick's been recruiting a bunch of guys from the portal. He's not going to be focused on high school recruits, as much as the portal, because you can turn around a program faster nowadays with you have an older team. And I mean, like Houston, the basketball team. Now they're more homegrown, but like all those guys were like seniors. Auburn basketball this past year under Bruce Pearl, they're like age 23 on average.
Right.
It's all portal guys, every guy.
Well, I mean, and again, I bring up Patino again because you look at a team like St. John's.
Right.
It was grad student starting guard, senior starting 2 guard, senior big. Like, I mean, you look at a guy like Kadari Richmond, who started his collegiate career at Syracuse and then transferred, I think, 3 different times.
It's crazy.
And then ended his college career at St. John's.
Crazy.
Right. So, I mean, even, we've had guys that have jumped in and out of the portal that started at ODU. Or like Chauncey Jenkins is a good example too. Right. I don't know how much money Chauncey Jenkins maybe was making over at Seton Hall. Right. But then you look at a guy like Vashawn Ouellette, TCU, he's back in the portal now, right? So, but this would be his third stop. I was talking to, and this is why I enjoy doing the podcast, is because when I was talking to Delisha Milton-Jones a couple weeks ago on sit-downs, I asked her straight up, like, as a coach, when you see somebody that has made 3 or 4 stops and then they're interested in your program at ODU, does that turn you off as someone who recruits them? And she said, initially, but if they could put the ball in the hole, kind of who cares, right? They're looking to win ball games, right? So, you're looking for players that want to improve their draft stock, but at the same time, like, yeah, it may be for a selfish reason, but if they can put ball in the hole, they're going to go.
It depends on how you want to build your program when you're a Delisha and a head coach at one of these programs, right? Like Dabo Sweeney a couple years ago was famous for and say, like, he don't want portal guys. Like he wants to recruit old school and he wants to develop guys 3, 4, 5 years into a program. Good on him.
Yeah.
You know,
there are guys that are strict,
and it's all depends on how you want to build a program. Kim Mulkey's a good example of that. Perfect example. When I was in Baton Rouge working, there was a girl named Chloe Jackson, who was a really good basketball player for LSU women. She was at NC State, started her career first 2 years, transferred to LSU for 2 seasons, played well, but not like she was one of the top 2 girls on the team, played really well, transferred to Baylor her last year and hit a national championship game winning shot. Kim Mulkey was hesitant to accept her first because she was like, you keep jumping around. I'm like, what? Why
would I take you?
You're not even going to be committed to us, barely. But she had 1 year left and then it ended up working out. She won a national championship. But I guess we should probably take a break real quick.
Let's do it.
And we'll take a break and come right back. More discussion coming up on Sportswrap Overtime. We're back on Sportswrap Overtime. James Catato and myself, Craig Loper, here in the studio. We're talking the landscape of sort of college athletics and NIL as we continue to get into this. I was just talking about, a coach wanting to build their program, and I think it's coach by coach. Like Ricky Ronnie, ODU football, they've taken a lot of transfers in recent years.
They have,
and that's what he doesn't mind it. Clearly some coaches don't want to go that route. If you ask me, the winning route, if you want to win sooner rather than later, makes sense to go to the portal and get people that are already established because they're already in college. They know the routine of being a college athlete. They're more mature. Their bodies are ready to play whatever sport they're in. So kind of just depends on how you want to build your program. Other things of this, what I'm talking about is, NIL, when it comes to that, it's good. And then it's also what I think is misguided a lot of times when people hear that. They just think everybody is like Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, like in all the national ads, or Caitlin Clark, for example, right? That is not how this is. Those are the outliers. Right. Most of the time, if you go to an Instagram and sort of look up college athletes, a lot of college athletes are sharing their NIL experience on social nowadays. I can't remember what team he played for. I didn't follow him. A guy's video popped up. He played college football at like USC or UCLA, and he talked about his NIL stuff like month by month. And he was like, yeah, I made $1,200 last month, like in NIL. And he's like, then I did $1,400 the next month. Then I did like $1,000 the month before. He like broke it all down. I was like, that's more realistic. Like whatever small brand deal on social media you got, a company sending you products, you're posting about it. That's real. So I don't like when fans, just say, oh, NIL, man, no way they should be making millions of dollars in college. I was living broke. I was starving. Well, not at 99.9% of them are not. Right. And you need to correct that mindset. That is not the average person. Like Caitlin Clark is a superstar and was on State Farm commercials in college because her play on the court
deserved to get paid.
That. But her teammates were not each getting paid millions of dollars.
I remember when I was going to grad school at Syracuse, and I was walking down. There's this big party street called Marshall Street.
Shout out Marshall Street.
Shout out Marshall Street. A lot of bars right on campus and everything like that. But I remember my grad year was Buddy Boeheim and Jimmy Boeheim's last year. So Jim Boeheim's kids. Right. And they were at Varsity Pizza, which was like one of the main hangout spots to go on campus, shooting a commercial. Right. That's NIL. That's NIL. Like all of the businesses and shops that were on that street on Marshall Street, like T-shirt World, and like all of it, all of the campus gear and everything like that. That's what NIL is. That's what it's supposed to be. And it's interesting because the first thing that popped into my mind when you talked about, we made it out the mud, like we didn't get paid anything in college. Well, the first thing that I think of is like DeAndre Ayton in Arizona. Okay. That paid under the table stuff. I don't know if you remember that scandal.
Oh yeah, everyone's
I don't know if you can attest to this, but or if you want to, right? But was there anybody to your knowledge that was getting paid at Oregon?
It's a great question. No, and there wasn't. Not that I never heard any guy. All of my experience in the locker room around D1 football players, major like ballers on playing Pac-10, Pac-12 football back then, I didn't hear anybody ask. Honestly, I heard more people complaining about their stipend wasn't enough month to month and struggling to pay their bills. Now, put you in the mindset of me, I'm a walk-on and I had no stipend, so I didn't want to hear those guys complain about anything. Right. So I was like, you guys are complaining about getting, I think it was like $1,300 a month they got, back in 2009, 2010, and they were complaining like, oh man, I can't. I'm like, I'm not getting anything. So You know, I'm living off like savings from high school. I had like a high school job, or I think I was working part-time in the off season, like at Sports Authority. And it was just like,
You're also from the area.
yeah, I was from the area. You know, I had a little bit of support from my dad, you know, stuff like that. But so, no, I never heard of those conversations back then. I played with LaMichael James. I played with LeGarrette Blount. And, you know, maybe they did a good job of just staying hush hush. You know, LeGarrette Blount was a JUCO guy who was the number one like JUCO player in the country. Who knows?
Who was the best player on your team? Like Kiko or something?
No. I mean, LaMichael James was an emerging star. LeGarrette, when I first got there, was probably the star in 2009, but he got suspended for all the 2009 season because he punched the Boise State guy. But after that, LaMichael James was the emerging star. Kiko Alonso, who ended up being a second-round pick by the Bills, he was good. He wasn't a star, though, of that team. Right. Jeremiah Masoli was a star at Oregon back then. He could have made some good local NIL money, you know, but nothing major. So, but I never heard of guys getting paid. If it was happening, I didn't see anything. I didn't hear about anything. I always heard of guys complaining about their stipends, right? They were complaining about their stipend was not enough. And that's still a thing in scholarship. Like D1 athletes get a stipend to go to school, and it's probably hopefully more now, but at least take care of their basic bills, like their rent if they live in off-campus housing, you know? So I didn't hear anything specific. But nowadays, man, it seems like it drives the conversation for everything. Just gripes that I have. I think a lot of people in media specifically, we get these reports of this kid got paid $4 million through $3 million. It's like, do we really know?
Yeah.
Like, do we really know? Or is that the kid's manager pumping up a number?
And how are you breaking that down?
How do you break it down? We can't access these contracts. It's not public information. Right. You know, if you're a journalist and you feel like it's on good authority, I don't have an issue with it. But like, you really don't know. Right. It's not like an NFL contract where we know these numbers. Like, you can go get it readily available. Like, so it's a little bit, that's where I kind of get annoyed. I get a little cringy with media and, you know, graphics. How much of the graphics now a big thing? Like,
I do think, though, I think we're probably not too far away from those numbers being like, disclosed and legit too.
Hopefully. Yeah, that would help.
You know,
I think transparency is key.
Yeah.
Like, you know, but then again, you're kind of like counting people's pockets, so you don't want to get caught up in that.
But where's the line that we draw between, like, you know, a lot of people will make the argument that these are professional athletes at this point because they're getting paid, right? So do you call them employees of the university? Where even still, if you're a state employee at a state university, you can go and look up somebody's salary.
For sure, right? Public institution. If a public university is now paying kids, we should be able to FOIA that Freedom of Information Act. Like, okay, this starting quarterback is getting paid whatever the number is, $65,000 for the year to play quarterback at Virginia Tech or whatever.
Perfect example, Arizona State, Cam Scatterbu.
Okay,
So it's like State University. Yeah. How much Cam Scatterbu getting paid?
Public. As long as it's public, you should definitely, I would hope through this House settlement, be able to access that information. Cooper Flagg is another big one.
Cooper Flagg. Well, I mean, that guy. You saw the report that came out about how much money.
$14 million in one season. And he was on campus for 8 months. Yeah. But his stuff was more about his future. They say he got what did he get, a Nike deal, a Reebok deal? I don't remember what shoe company he signed with. And then there was another big brand that he was working with. So when you're that big, that kind of makes more sense. And that's like a shoe deal, like a traditional shoe deal, like LeBron James signed out of high school, $90 million with Nike. Yeah. That is NIL, but it's like, it's just on another level.
So it's interesting because when I was Andrew Salvadon, the runner at Bayside, who's going to now go to New Balance Nationals in a couple weeks, right? Holds the national record for the 500 on the indoor circuit. Okay. And when I was talking to his dad said that, like, New Balance sends him stuff. Yeah. You know, all the time. Right. And I was like, is he? And he was like, Nike came to the table with the same thing. So now, like, these kids who are 17, 18 years old are negotiating. Yeah. I don't know if he had hard money on the table from these, but it was companies sending you know, $200 sneakers
for sure
to these kids. That's going to be overwhelming as a high school student. Cooper Flagg, if it's a fifth, obviously there's two drastically opposite ends of the spectrum. Right. But it's like, you'll get a guy who's making, you know, $14 million as an 18-year-old. Yeah. Like, what do you even do with that, you know?
I don't know. Hopefully you're smart with it. I think, you know, the other thing we haven't talked about too, that is an honest, fair, I think, is the social media followings, right? The Shedeur Sanders of the world, the Travis Hunters of the world. Yeah. When you have a platform and you have millions of followers, brand deals want that. They want that.
Well, look at Travis Hunter on Twitch.
Yeah, he's a big deal.
I mean, he streams these when Shador Sanders was at Browns minicamp and he was streaming on Twitch, and his teammates were behind him and they were goofing around. Right. But I mean, he had a couple 100,000 concurrent viewers.
I'm sure he has some sort of Twitch deal where it's like, hey, brother, we need you to stream twice a week. You know, we'll cut you a $150,000 check for the year.
And that pays, man.
Oh, yeah. You know? If you got the following, take advantage, you know, to I don't know. Before like the sport, like Kim Kardashian was like the first influence. I really feel like they say she gets paid like $2 million for a post about a product.
Yeah.
Like, that's fair because she's exposing your product to 40 million, 50 million followers, whatever. Right. Imagine Messi charging for a post. Like, what could Messi charge to post about BMW or something like that? He's got how many 300 million followers on Instagram?
Yeah, I mean now Cristiano Ronaldo has the most liked post on Instagram. Period.
Yeah, OBJ is like.
It's Messi. It's Messi holding the picture of the World Cup.
Right.
And when you think about monetizing that picture, you know,
it's crazy. Hopefully, he credited whoever took the picture.
Yeah, right. Literally, we should random dude on AP Images.
Yeah,
or something.
Dang it. Let's take one more break on Sports Wrap Overtime as we continue this conversation. We'll be right back. All right, we're back on Sports Wrap Overtime, talking more about the college athletics NIL landscape. Trying to think of anything else that kind of what we're about to get into here. Perfect example for me is like, another great example of traditional like NIL, the way it should be is like NCAA football 2025 and 2026, the video game. I still call it NCAA. It's called College Football 25. Great example. Like everybody that opted into that game, you got $600. You got a free copy of the game. Cool. This next year, they're getting like $1,200 and get a copy of the game. That's cool. That's very cool for them because back in the day, guys weren't getting paid. Now we know through the House settlement, there's going to be some back pay with athletes. I can't remember the years exactly, 20 something to 2017, 18, I think is the date, maybe around there. Those guys are going to get a little bit of some back pay now if you were in college athletics. So that's always really good. Here's a question for you. How do we think schools paying the athletes directly impacts NIL? Because they are going to be two different things now. You got the school paying them like employees and you got NIL. So how do you think the two coexist?
It's a great question. I mean, does something that I've read and seen is it like do these school boards become like LLCs to make it like fair, I guess, right? I mean, because at some point you got to draw the line of like, okay, well, the biggest schools are always going to win if the schools that get the most funding always, right? You have to find a way to level the playing field. Yeah. And obviously, it's unrealistic to think that Old Dominion and Alabama deserve the same amount of money. Right. But there's got to be some sort of like, for lack of a better term, per capita limit. Right. You know, to where at least somebody like Old Dominion has a fighting chance. Yeah. You know
how they balance it out.
Yeah, because right now it's like money overload. The university, another good example, if you just go outside of the university, Bryce Underwood with Michigan was a really good example because when he wasn't committed to Michigan, where was he before? LSU, right? Yeah. And Dave Portnoy went on Barstool and said, I'll pay $10 million for Bryce Underwood to come to Michigan. Right. Whether that was true or not, Dave Portnoy had the money to pay $10 million to get Bryce
He's at Michigan, so he's definitely got a better offer at Michigan.
Right. And he went on Portnoy went on Shannon Sharp's podcast talking about his ex-wife and how, like, you know, she has access to all of his bank accounts. And if he lost a couple $1 million in a day, he wouldn't even notice it was gone. Right. So it's like, what's 10 mil to be able to get somebody like Bryce Underwood into the door? Yeah. So
Here's my counter argument to that is like, it sounds good. I'm happy for Bryce Underwood to get paid. But if I'm Portnoy, like nothing's a guarantee. Like outside of your LeBrons, where it's like a solidified prospect who can really change a franchise, Bryce Underwood, he's a great prospect, 5 stars. He looks great. He can sling it.
Well, he's out of shape, according to Michigan.
Oh, is that what they're saying?
Yeah, a couple days ago, his conditioning is just not coming on.
Dude, nobody's sure thing. So if you're locked into $10 million and this guy goes out there lays an egg, like, oh my God, that's professional sports. You draft guys number 1 overall, and you got the Anthony Bennett's of the world, and you got the busts of the world who just don't work out. So I guess that's the cost of admission, so to speak. I think what's going to happen is when schools start paying, NIL is going to exist. It's just going to be I think the good thing is it's going to become more what it was intended for, because people are still going to get paid for their name image. Like just because the House settlement has gone through and like schools are paying people directly doesn't mean NIL doesn't exist, right? Your kid can still go do a commercial and get paid another $1,000 for the month or whatever.
Right.
You're still going to see whoever the top national athlete is at Duke and Kentucky and all Alabama, like they're still going to be in the national ads, your Heisman candidate types, your player of the year types.
And those top athletes should get paid top dollar.
Oh, for sure.
Like Travis Hunter should get paid top
How about the
dollar.
Texas Tech pitcher from the Women's College World Series? Like her story, 2 years at Stanford. She literally just blew through everybody. She had like a 0 point something ERA in 2 seasons. Player of the year at Stanford. Texas Tech, a major booster who's building up that athletics department, building all kinds of facilities, putting all kinds of money into NIL. Was like, yeah, we'll pay you $1 million to come to Texas Tech to pitch for us.
Yeah.
And that paid off. They made the national championship this year. She was a stud. They lost to Texas, but still, like without that, she would have never got to Texas Tech. And she deserved that because her performance on the field warranted that. And it's really subjective too. It's not objective. Like some people are like, oh, she's a softball player. Who cares? She doesn't deserve $1 million. Well, if the market says what the market says.
If you're bringing home an opportunity for trophies and national championships and you're a transformative athlete, I think that's what we're like. Livy Dunn. Right?
Livy Dunn.
It's a great example. Livy Dunn, not a USA gymnast caliber. Right. Yeah. She's not.
No.
But she's an LSU national championship caliber gymnast who's going to bring a ton of eyes on
millions
LSU
of followers.
Gymnastics. Yeah. It also, like Paul Skeens being there and then dating and being a power couple. You can speak to LSU better than I can, right?
God.
But I mean,
I think I was gone by the time Livy got there, just by a year or something, and it was like then all of a sudden you started hearing, but just her brand, millions of followers. I watched the NFL, I watched the LSU documentary on Amazon Prime. I can't remember the name of it, NILSU or something like that. And very good behind the scenes with Jaden Daniels, Livy Dunn, a couple track athletes, I think a gymnast, not another gymnast, someone else, I can't remember. Flage Johnson.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And it's the business, man. They're running it. They got managers, a lot of the families trying to help. And you just hope these kids have good direction. You hope no one's trying to pick their pockets. And you just want, I just like to see balance. And when I say balance, it's not balance like you going back to it's like ODU is never going to compete with Alabama on the football field. Like, anyway, on the field or off the field with money wise.
Yeah.
And anybody that says like, well, I just wish, it was fair. I get what you're saying, like the per capita thing, but college sports has always been about the haves and have-nots. If you look deep in certain sports, it's the blue bloods that have been dominating since the 40s.
Totally. But what I'm referring to when I say the per capita thing is it's not designed for Old Dominion to be consistently competitive with an Alabama. It's designed for Old Dominion to not go to, and I'm saying they haven't done this, but go 2-10 in their conference, right? Like the Sun Belt teams and the mid-major teams and the G5 teams, you could argue last year that the Sun Belt was the best G5 in the country. For
sure,
you know? And so allowing the teams in the G5, the top end of the G5, to all have a level playing field with each other.
Yeah.
Because now it means so much more to be a G5, especially with the expansion of the college football playoff format.
It does, for sure.
Right. So it's like if you're an elite level G5 school, you have a legitimate opportunity to go to the college football playoff.
Yeah.
You have an opportunity now when you do something like that to increase your funding that you get back to your school.
Yeah.
Right. So getting a level playing field on that sense from conference to conference, because of course it's never going to be linear.
Right.
Allowing that to happen because now the implications of being just a G5 college football team are a lot higher.
Yeah. No, it is true. That 12 team playoff is interesting.
Well, now it's larger than 12 now, isn't it?
No, I think we're in a couple years. I don't know if that's that's a good point. I don't think they've officially put out like going to 16. It's 12 is we're still locked into 12 for a little while. I think the foundation is being laid for like 14 or 16 or something, which is crazy. Like who knows what happens down the line. You talk about G5 and stuff, and like Old Dominion. I think it's going to take like a transformative level athlete to come there. Like what Taylor Heineke was more than 10 years ago at this point in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, like those four, ODU is going to need someone like that.
But he's a diamond in the rough, dude, though.
Totally.
That's the difference.
The thing is nowadays, the Taylor Heineke, he shows up on campus, he balls out for 2 years. Most likely he's going to be gone. So it's like, dang, these smaller schools can't benefit to the way they could back then.
Like really, you got to look in and ask yourself honestly. Now, Jason Henderson did it, right? So it's like there's, obviously there's an opportunity for Colton Joseph to stay all four.
Right.
But what's, given the landscape, what's the likelihood that a Colton Joseph stays all four?
Not likely. It's not likely, man. It's not likely. And that's nothing wrong. It's nothing against Old Dominion or the G4, right? We just have to be realists. Like these P4 programs, they have better facilities. They play in bigger stadiums. They're on major TV.
Exposure.
The exposure, the treatment staffs are bigger. Everything is bigger and better. That's just how it goes. And, you know, if you can play at that level and you can get a check to go play at that level and you want to challenge yourself, nothing wrong with that. Hey, hope it all, wish you the best. You know, you can't be mad.
Is the fact that Grant Wilson is now an Indiana Hoosier.
Right.
Grant Wilson, there is a non-0% chance, considering that Curtis Rourke is gone for Indiana, there's a non-0% chance that when ODU hits the field week 1 in Bloomington, that Grant Wilson is standing across from them. Yeah,
and he was at Old Dominion for 2 years after 2 years at Fordham. So it's very interesting. I just hope a lot of these kids, you keep the main thing, right? That's kind of my philosophy in life. Like, all these opportunities are great, man. But you know, when more opportunities come is when you keep balling out and you keep playing well and you focus on the right things and you have the right people around you. I hope it doesn't create, I almost feel like I feel bad for some kids. Like, it's almost going to create this new level of anxiety that they have to deal with on top of being a student athlete, on top of performing, on top of working out. Now it's like you're trying to run a business and it's been done, but like, you just hope they got good people around them to help them run the show. Who you just mentioned? What was the name you just mentioned? I just forgot it.
Grant Wilson.
Yeah, like guys like that. Like, Grant's not going to the NFL. He's not an NFL caliber player, right? Yeah. So I hope those guys get paid as much as they can in college. To the guys who have a shot to go to the league, get your money, but keep the main thing, because the NFL still pays more than most NIL deals, unless you're the Cooper Flags of the world. Like, you're working towards that second NFL or NBA contract where, like, that's generational wealth. That's your family's history has changed forever. Short-term money's cool, but, you know, if you're, I don't know, give Joe Burrow, for example. Like, Joe Burrow didn't get paid a dime at LSU. NIL wasn't a thing, right, that I know of that's been reported. But guess what? He's under contract with the Bengals for $250 million and, like, all of it's guaranteed, or damn near most of it's guaranteed.
Right, he's set for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he's set. So he grinded it out. He put in the work for 5 years in college without getting paid, and now, you know, he's set up. So the top guys, hopefully, keep the main thing, and stay focused on that. Everyone else who's, like, not the professional level athlete, like, those are the people I think NIL is designed for most. Yeah, right. It's designed for everybody, but, like, get what you can, leverage your brand. But if you want to stay true to the sport, then ball out at your sport and let the opportunities come naturally and go get what you're worth. You know, the market, you are what the market says you're worth. And, you know, I think the ramifications, the bad of it is like this extra level of anxiety that these kids are dealing with now. I didn't deal with any of that stuff. No. You know, I just didn't. Like, I sent out my high school tape on DVDs. Me and my dad packed a DVD into these bubble wrap containers. We wrote on the address and we shipped it off to all the Pac-10 schools and was like, oh, hopefully someone gives me some looks. You know what I'm saying? And kids aren't doing that nowadays. They got Huddle. You know, it's like that's
Huddle is Huddle, everything.
But I'm just saying it's a different landscape. Like, my life was so much simpler coming out of high school and getting into college. Nowadays, these guys are dealing with so many things from so many angles. You know, it's just you hope they can handle it well. That's what I'm saying. So Travis Johnson, good example of that. I mean, he's a stud. Hopefully he goes somewhere and successful, makes some money, but, like, you know, focuses on ball. And I think he will. He's a humble kid. You know? Yeah. So,
and he's too talented to not, you know.
Yeah. So there's guys around the 757 and that we're going to look for in the future. We'll see them on national ads here sooner or later. One guy that comes to mind who was just short of the NIL era, I think, was like Mark Williams at Duke. Yeah. He had a good 2-year career at Duke.
Mark Williams definitely would have raked in some NIL.
Yeah, sure. You know, stuff like that. But he got drafted 15th overall pick in the NBA, signed a multi-million-dollar contract. Now he's trying to work towards the second one eventually. But very interesting to see where it all goes in the coming years, because it's a lot of change. But, like, for all the old heads that are like, I hate it, like, open up a little bit more, be more open.
It's just a landscape of where things have to go and had to go at some point.
For sure had to go.
Yeah.
Definitely had to get here. I know it's a headache, but overall, I think the fact that they can get paid is better. And I think most people agree with that. Yeah. You know, unless you're just completely, like, ignorant, in my opinion. So
just a quick one, because we got about
we got about
5 minutes. Yeah. You talked about the 757 athletes who would have raked in some money. Allen Iverson, Georgetown.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Allen Iverson, high school.
Yeah.
Right. What is that bag looking like?
I don't know, man. No, it's a great question. Allen was incredible his junior year. Obviously, he didn't play his senior year though.
Right.
So how much would have that hurt him? He had off the court stuff. So
Right.
that probably hurts him a little bit. But John Thompson still takes the risk after his freshman year at Georgetown when he was like freshman All-American freshman of the year. Then I think he cashes in again. Another example, even Vic wasn't like, he was a top recruit around here, but like nationally, he wasn't like Cooper Flagg level of notoriety.
Or like Ronald Curry or something.
Yeah, even like Ronald Curry, like he was nationally known.
The top guy in two sports.
Yeah, player of the year in high school, basketball and football. They brought the McDonald's All-American game here because of him. Like he would have gotten.
You put him on a Wheaties box or something if NIL was around.
Literally, exactly. So, very interesting to think about it. Another new age example would be like Micah Ojo. She's super young at Princess Anne. Like she's a top recruit. What is she seeking out? Does she value a school that's going to pay her a little bit more?
She's got an offer from Dawn Staley in South Carolina.
Yeah, right. Or do you go play for Dawn and you're not worried about the money? Do you go play for Gino at UConn and you don't worry about the money? Or do you go to maybe a lesser quote unquote program that's cutting you a higher check? Because UConn and South Carolina, while they may want you, they don't need you as bad as, say, name the program, like
Butler.
Exactly. JMU or whoever it is, they're going to.
No shade to Butler and JMU.
Well, the South Carolina and the UConns of the world have access to every top recruit and every international top player.
Right.
Right.
You go to a lesser team, you become the best player and you're making a bag.
Automatically. It's just about what do you value?
Right.
And I would value really the coaching and development more over the money if you're in a position to do that. You know? Some people and these kids right now, right? Like if they have to help support their family at 17, 18 years old, go get as much money as you can and hopefully manage it correctly and just still be smart about it. That's kind of how I feel.
Do you think you would have lost your head if you had gotten all that type of buzz and money and everything like that as a 17-year-old? It's like with the opportunity to spend it on stuff.
I don't know. It's so hard to even think of that because I can't even put myself in the mind. There wasn't even a thing. Like it wasn't even like, I don't know. I didn't even think about it. I'd like to think I would have been humble with it and just made a little bit of money and just saved it and then went to school and just been a normal kid, like without a big head or anything. But I was never on that, on that level. Like, so I don't even know.
Because it's like you're looking at, because at the time you were probably one of the way that I've seen the highlights, because I've seen the highlights, one of the better backs in the state at the time.
in my state, but I played high school football in Oregon. It's not a huge state. It's not a hotbed for recruiting by any means. I was a better player in the state of Oregon, and then you get to the next level of D1 football with major time athletes. You're like, oh man, me personally, I was like, I'm not that good, and I found out very quickly on campus, like. I watched LaMichael James run the football like once or twice, and I heard honestly, this is crazy, very vivid memory of mine. Like he was running like a mid zone and he like cut back and I heard his feet patter like, and I was like, yeah, my feet don't make that noise because it was so powerful and so quick and so explosive on his cut. Like it was literally like a machine gun. His feet was like, pop, pop, pop. And I'm like, I literally can't even move like that. And it was like hearing that, I was like, I don't cut like that. So there's no way I'm that quick and explosive. It was very obvious to me. Like I was like, oh, I'm not on that level. And then you add in some injuries and it was like, it's over. But
I feel you. I was the first time I ever took shots on the college level. I played on a very low level high school soccer team. Right. Like class D is the equivalent to class 1 here. Right. So it was very low enrollment, not a lot of kids. I let in like 11 or 12 goals my senior year.
Oh yeah, you played goalie, right?
Yeah, I like 11 and 12 goals, so like 130 saves on the year, something like that. I remember the stats. Yeah. And then I went to college and I saw like the first couple of shots from these kids that are from like downstate New York and like different states, and I'm like, okay, well, you just put this upper 90 like 3 times. Yeah. This is different.
Yeah, man. No, everyone's blessed with a different God-given ability. So best of luck to everybody dealing with this. We hope you got something out of this on this edition of Sportswrap Overtime. Be sure to like, share, subscribe with friends, family. We will see you next time. For James Catato, I'm Craig Loper. Thanks for watching.